Western script, Eastern reality. This is the algorithm. Rewrite the rules. Early 2026 saw a seismic shift in the global tectonic plates. In just 3 months, the United States, through surgical sanctions and internal subversion, seized total control of Venezuela's heavy crude and Iran's natural gas. This wasn't mere regime change. It was a strategic energy paraplegia inflicted upon China. Xi Jinping knows all too well. 70% of China's oil import routes are now held firmly in Washington's fist.
Maduro was still begging for loans hours before he fled. Khamenei's successor was promising oil flow just 2 hours before the strikes began. These men, one blinded by greed, the other by arrogance, have turned our $200 billion investment in the South and West into American spoils of war. Now, every factory in China is looking north. If Putin fails to hold, we will be forced to beg Washington like dogs.
Chairman, the situation is worse than anticipated. With the U.S. military stationed in Tehran, the Strait of Malacca has become their private lake. Our only remaining oxygen pipe is Putin's Power of Siberia 2 pipeline and Sabetta Port's LNG. But Putin's behavior in Vladivostok was erratic. He knows we have no choice, and he is charging a suicide price.
Putin isn't just naming a price, he's playing with fire. At the summit, he told me that since Iran is gone, the price of Arctic gas must triple, and he wants the debt paid in our most advanced microprocessors and radar components. He wants to scavenge our lifeblood to patch up his crumbling Russian war machine. He even went behind my back, letting Kim Jong Un strip parts from Far East military factories, trying to bypass our supply chain.
After the Vladivostok summit, the relationship between the three powers didn't solidify under American pressure. Instead, it dissolved into a death row paranoia. Putin seeks to use China's energy anxiety for one last extortion. Kim Jong Un wants to loot Russia's remaining heavy industrial tech before the collapse. And Xi is calculating how to turn these two allies into raw fuel for China's survival.
What does Putin fear most right now?
He fears we will sell him out from within, just as the U.S. handled Venezuela. He has stationed his most loyal internal guards at Sabetta Port and rigged the foundations with massive physical explosives. He tells us it's to deter an American landing, but our intelligence shows the remote triggers are in a black box sitting right on his desk. He is ready to blow the port and take us down with him.
This is the limit of dog-eat-dog geopolitics. He holds the fuse, I hold his wallet, and Kim stands by the side, waiting to eat our scraps. The fall of Venezuela and Iran taught Putin one thing. In a desperate corner, an ally is more dangerous than an enemy. He would rather see the Arctic laid to waste than let it become our refuge from the American blockade.
Furthermore, Kim Jong Un seems to be exploiting this fear. He hinted to Putin that if Beijing doesn't provide enough military compensation, North Korea could assist Russia in establishing a smuggling chain in the Far East, one entirely independent of our settlement system. It is a direct challenge to our red line.
Let them fight. The more Putin extorts me, the more he proves he has no way out. If he wants to play energy suicide, I will give him an asset liquidation. Tell the technical teams at Sabetta, don't touch his explosives. What we need to do is make his buyer disappear.
Xi's strategy begins to shift. If Putin intends to use his Arctic monopoly to blackmail China, Xi intends to make Russia's Arctic energy illegal in the eyes of the global market. With Venezuela's oil fields in the hands of the US military and Tehran's gas terminals reduced to smoldering ruins, the sudden collapse of the energy shield has forced the three men who stood together in Vladivostok to tear off their masks. Putin now holds the only remaining energy pipeline to China. But he has realized that this same pipeline is the noose tightening around his own neck.
Putin shouted at me on the phone for half an hour last night. He said that since we failed to protect his interests in the Persian Gulf, he is going to charge wartime reparations for Arctic gas. He's testing my limit, seeing if I'll trade our final 12-nanometer lithography technology for a bit of gas. He wants to give his missiles eyes again before his country runs out of breath.
Chairman, Kim Jong Un hasn't been idle either. He's exploiting Putin's paranoia by bypassing us entirely, demanding permanent usage rights for the Vladivostok naval port. Kim told Putin that only North Korean special forces can secure the port against a color revolution led by China in the Far East. The two of them are already conspiring to push our influence back from the border.
Kim is playing with fire. He thinks Putin is a neighbor he can rely on, unaware that Putin has already marked North Korea as his final human shield. Putin wants to use North Korean thugs to counterbalance me, giving him the leverage to negotiate with Washington. He wants to trade the demilitarization of the Arctic route for a promise that the US won't deploy long-range missiles on the Russian border.
This is the nature of their alliance. When external pressure reaches a critical mass, the internal tension becomes a lethal poison. Putin wants to sell out China for survival. Kim wants to sell out both for technology. And Xi, watching this dog-eat-dog theater, decides to add fuel to the fire.
Since Putin trusts the North Koreans so much, let's facilitate that. Tell Kim Jong Un we are willing to provide a special subsidy of grain and crude oil. The condition? North Korea must increase its troop presence along the Far East border. Nominally, they are there to assist Russia, but in reality, I want Putin to feel the tip of a North Korean blade pressed against his lower back.
This will drive Putin into extreme psychosis. He'll suspect Kim has been bought by us to seize his land, and he'll fear that we are ready to strike a deal with the Americans at any moment to isolate Russia completely.
Putin buried explosives at Sabetta because he believes it represents his final shred of dignity. I want him to understand that without my nod, his dignity isn't worth a single dollar. Maduro died of internal betrayal. The Iranian hardliners died of intelligence leaks. Putin now looks at everyone around him as if they were American spies or my puppets.
Using this fear, Xi begins a brutal energy calculus. He doesn't move to save Putin. Instead, he begins covertly driving down the acquisition prices of Russian assets.
Has the news reached Berlin yet? The intelligence regarding Putin's plan for ecological suicide in the Arctic.
It has. The Germans are terrified. They've reached out to us, hoping we can deploy a peacekeeping technical team to Sabetta to prevent Putin from detonating nuclear-powered facilities in a mental breakdown. In the eyes of Europe, Putin has transformed from a supplier into a mad terrorist.
That is the effect I wanted. The more erratic Putin becomes, the fewer friends he has in the world. When he realizes Kim is stealing his tech, the Germans are cursing his name, and the Americans are waiting to collect his corpse. His only path to survival will be to hand the keys of Sabetta to me. Not as a partner, but as a trustee.
Xi turns away, looking out at the calm red walls of the compound. He knows the endgame is near. Putin believes he is extorting China, unaware that he is the one tightening the noose around his own throat. This is the coldest scene of 2026. While US carrier groups patrol the Persian Gulf and the Caribbean, these three allies are meeting in the cloud to negotiate who gets to die first.
Xi, Where are the chips and missile guidance modules I demanded? Kim, why are your troops frozen at the border? I am telling you both, the fuse to Sabetta port is in my hand. If I don't get a guarantee of survival, we all go back to the Stone Age.
Vladimir, calm yourself. Your fuse? You mean those physical detonators you hid under the generator units? Jong Un, when you asked Vladimir for usage rights to Vladivostok Naval Port yesterday at 3 p.m., didn't you promise to help him monitor those explosives? Yet, 30 minutes later, you had your military attaché send the exact coordinates and frequencies of those charges to me, hoping to trade them for 3 months of grain aid. Do the two of you truly believe this table of mine is so easy to sit at?
The screens fall into a deathly silence. Putin's gaze toward Kim is murderous, while Kim nonchalantly exhales a cloud of smoke. The ironclad alliance is thinner than paper in the face of survival.
Since you have both betrayed me, then let us all burn. I have nothing left to lose.
Chairman, Putin has activated the pulse signal. However, the commander of his guards at Sabetta received his retirement compensation via a Swiss bank transfer 2 hours ago. The circuits have been completely isolated by our managed automation system.
Vladimir, go ahead. Press it. After you do, your satellite communications will be severed, and your only exit will be sealed. Within 5 minutes, the world will receive news that you attempted a terrorist attack on global energy infrastructure. At that point, not even Berlin will utter a word in your defense.
Putin frantically mashes the switch, but the feed of Sabetta port on the screen remains motionless. Only the Arctic wind blows through the empty docks. This is not a cinematic explosion. This is a systemic lockout in the real world.
Now, listen to my proposal. Vladimir, you will hand over the operations of Sabetta port and the entire northern sea route to our sovereign wealth fund in a trust. We will maintain your electricity and ensure your bureaucracy does not collapse. Jong Un, you will withdraw your troops from the border, and I will ensure your submarines have the fuel to launch. This is not a negotiation. This is your only liquidation list.
Beijing's terms are always so impossible to refuse.
Venezuela and Iran are gone. A heavy loss, yes. But it forced this bear and this wolf to reveal their true forms. The Americans think they have cut off my water, unaware that they have instead allowed me to harvest the entire forest.
In 2026, geopolitics is no longer a confrontation of armies, but the consumption of one system by another. In a desperate corner, Xi Jinping turned his allies into vassals. This is the truth behind episode 2 of The Power Island. When the great game reaches a stalemate, the most terrifying person isn't your enemy. It's the comrade sitting next to you, holding your wallet. If you found this dog-eat-dog drama compelling, or if you want to see how Xi Jinping handles the counterattack from the American AI system, make sure to like this video to support our hardcore geopolitical analysis. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Episode 3, The Washington Perspective, is coming soon. Share this with your friends, and let's discuss. Who do you think is the real winner of 2026? Leave a comment and tell me, does Putin have any chance of a comeback? See you next time when the system reloads.